with the news. Oh, that's funny. Well, we weren't quite ready for that yet, but Starsky's here and he's brought a friend that he's going to introduce. So we're going to start that way instead.
I wasn't prepared. Hi guys, hi everyone, Operator Starsky here. And today I have a very, very special friend here, Anna from Ukraine. I'm sure that you know her. Anna, can you please say hi to our guests?
I'm really happy to be tonight with all of you guys. So hello and stay with us.
So the Shills army grows. Ukrainians multiply, and I think it's and I think it's a good news. Unfortunately, we have not so good news today from Ukraine. So today there was a missile strike in Zaporizhia. You probably heard about it. There was a humanitarian convoy evacuating civilians from Zaporizhia, and it was hit by Russians, and 3 missiles type S-300, those are surface-to-air missiles modified to hit land targets. So 3 of such missiles unfortunately hit this humanitarian convoy, and the whole column was struck by those missiles. Unfortunately, we have quite a lot of casualties, as much as 30 people reported dead, and 92 of those people were wounded. We also know that 3 kids were harmed, unfortunately, as well. Also, today we have quite interesting news from Ukraine, because President Zelensky stated that Ukraine is about to apply to NATO for membership. And according to Mr. Stoltenberg, in case all the members of NATO agree, Ukraine will become a member of NATO. And it was done basically as a response to those fake referendums that were held in the occupied regions. And this procedure is going to be done faster. Anna, can you help me, please? How would you say пришвидшена процедура?
Accelerated, in accelerated manner, perhaps, like on some special conditions to make us members of NATO sooner than expected. But these were good news for today about the NATO, and quite symbolic, I think, because it all started. Oh, should I help only with one word?
Yeah, no,
I don't know the rules yet.
Yeah, no, there are no rules. Yeah, take the mic and run any damn time you want to. Please do.
Yeah, so I thought it was very symbolic. It all began with Russia putting one of the first conditions, Ukraine never to be a NATO member. And now, after our successful counteroffensive, we apply, and in this accelerated mode. And I'm keeping silent.
It was awesome. And and basically already we know that countries of Baltia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania already support Ukraine, as well as Canada and the United States. So we can expect that this will happen very, very soon. Also, President Zelensky today confirmed that Yampil, a small town near Liman, was liberated, and now it's under control of Ukrainian troops, and also the very town of Liman, which is very, very important strategically, is kind of surrounded. And according to our information, so there's one way out of this encirclement, and this road is basically by our control in terms of artillery, in terms of missiles, and we know that as much as 5,500 Russian soldiers are currently encircled in that area, including a lot of their vehicles and, of course, ammunition. And also today, the Security Council of the United Nations declared a resolution that condemns those fake referendums in Ukraine, and they called not to recognize them, not to recognize those results, and also they called in this resolution that Russia has to remove its troops from the territory of Ukraine. But again, because Russia is a member of Security Council of the United Nations, they blocked this resolution. And those are pretty much all the news of today.
Sad and good headlines. Like, it's been a real week when it comes to big stuff. There was a thing I wanted to just mention here, Starsky. This is from Forbes. When Lehman falls, and it's looking likely that that will happen in the coming days, the Russian army will lose a critical railway juncture. Considering how heavily the Russians lean on trains for routine supply, losing Lehman is a very big deal.
Yeah, and basically they already lost the railway because Lehman is encircled, and their supplies, their ammunition cannot get to other Russian positions. So yeah, I think that as soon as this town is captured, Russia will have big problems on that very specific span of the front line.
I think that would be a big deal. That would be huge. There was one other thing here. Well, I wonder if we shouldn't turn to Clapperjack right now, because you wanted to get a couple of things going tonight, news-wise. Is he there, handy?
Real quick, please, though.
Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah.
Go,
Yes,
Aimee.
Thank you. I have a super chat here from Sam Williams for 50 New Zealand dollars, who sends us a heart. Thank you so much, Sam. She is amazing. She is one of our biggest
Thanks,
supporters.
Sam.
And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
incredible. So thank you so much, Sam.
Absolutely. Very cool. Here, let's see. Clapper, where did you want to start there, Jack?
Oh, a lot of things to talk about, but I'm not sure where to start, and my head isn't exactly in a very good place. So if I stammer or like lose track, please kind of grab me and like keep me on track, because my head isn't really on. After the car crash, it's kind of hard. So apart from all the news regarding, kind of like more of a positive for Ukraine, we kind of have bad news coming from Russia, because today is the day that Putin actually like finalized his bullshit annexation and made a speech, and then celebrated it like mostly across Russia from what I've heard. But the biggest celebration obviously was at the Red Square in the Kremlin, and we can actually have a look at that if Dick wants to.
Which
pull that up.
Which one am I bringing up here first? Is this the Telegram one, the second one? Yeah.
Yeah. So they had like a freak celebration of sorts, being all happy and shit for whatever reason, even though I don't think there's anything to be happy about, because this is just mad.
Yeah.
This is nothing to celebrate. Like if my country would have been doing something like this, I'd be horrified. But
This is a time of protest, God damn it. What the hell?
But like the way that things are being done in Russia, these people may be like working for the government and being forced by the government to come and celebrate and wave the flags and all the usual stuff. That's how it works. Mostly in our ex-USSR countries, it's mostly like semi-voluntary, semi-voluntary. Sorry, kind of attendance. More or less, and in the same time, we had the speech that Putin made, and I had to read and listen to that, and I was just like absolutely baffled of what he was saying, because he was, I don't even know where to start. Like, I put the transcript in the chat, like it was like a little bit rough around the edges.
Yeah, I've got it here.
I'm not sure if I can like read it as fast as like who's a better reader here, because I'm a slow reader actually. My
damn Zoom is broken. Oh well. Here, let me, because I've got the document in front of me as well somewhere, don't I? Oh no, the text document is totally locked up. Okay, there, I got it. So it starts off, the US is still actually occupying Germany, Japan, South Korea.
Dick, before you continue, there's this line, and these are like the bullet points, and the rest is more like expanded ones.
Oh, okay. Where do you want me to start? And of course, let's see. We will always remember the heroes of the Russian Spring, those who did not put up with the neo-Nazi coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014. All those who died for the right to speak their native language, to preserve their culture, traditions, and faith, for the right to live. That's just dirty coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. And like most of it, like, if I'm not sure if we should read the whole thing, but I don't know how we should put this, but like, after listening to all of that, I kind of like didn't really focus on the speech itself, but rather how he was structuring it. Like, you would have think that he's just like a crazy guy that just like goes full Hitler #2. Yeah. But in reality, he was being clever. I'm not sure if he wrote that speech himself or somebody wrote it for him, because the way that he structured it, he was trying to play into kind of like people's needs in the West. Like, he was saying a lot of interesting things. Like, he tried to appeal to the to Western socialists, from what I've seen, communists, to the right wingers. He was like saying that, look, the West is evil. They are kind of like saying that they're pro-democracy and everything, but it's a lie. He was kind of like putting that in that kind of like, and there was a lot of projection as well. He was pretty much everything that he's doing, he's been projecting onto the West, and it's just bizarre. I've been looking at it, and I was just like at awe.
Well, let's get Aimee in for a couple of super chats here, and then we'll get a few reactions around the panel.
Absolutely, please. Thank you so much. We've got the first one from Sam Williams, who writes, "Even after the darkest night comes the dawn." That is so correct. Thank you so much, Sam. And then we have one from the Sun Express for 10 American dollars, who says, "Slava Ukraini and Heroyam Slava and NAFO and NATO. Thank you so much." And then we have Tim Starr for Australian $7.99, says, "My cousin in Ukraine said nukes moved to Rostov. Can you say anything, or better not to say?" Thank you so much, everyone, for your support.
Ooh.
You know what I will do? I will put the interpretation into a paste bin so that everybody can have a look at the in the chat.
Yeah. So on that though, Starsky, has there been any word at all of nukes moving into Rostov?
I cannot tell you exactly, but of course it depends on what kind of nukes. In case we're talking about ICBMs, there's no need to move them; they stay in place. In case they're talking about like tactical nuclear bombs or nuclear shells, for example, that like I'm not sure that that information can be public, probably. So I don't really know how to comment that.
Speaking from
all good,
the
yeah.
civilian side, I can tell you that many people who live close to nuclear power stations are now also in the highest level of alert, preparing all that needed for the sake of if something goes wrong with this nuclear power stations all around Ukraine. So this is also like living with Putin. You have to be prepared for everything.
Oh yeah.
It sure seems like it these days. Holy, you know, he just used to look like a bravado idiot from my Canadian point of view, but now it's just so much more than that. You know, this isn't riding tigers around. You know, hey?
A lot of people actually thought that, including like everybody that I knew, that he was just bluffing, but turned out he wasn't. But
Very
speaking
much.
about the losing the railway point in what was it again? What was the name of this? Le
Mans.
We've been getting reports that the Belarusian railway station is being prepped for receiving another wave of Russian military forces, which is really, really bad. And I also kind of included links for Dick, so maybe, I don't know. It's kind of like an inside info through Telegram channels and everything like that. So there's been reports that people working at the railway stations are being like monitored and forced not to disseminate this information.
Yes.
So it's kind of, you know, on the hush hush. But
I'll be streaming for like another 20 minutes.
Huh? Oh, I think we got something we weren't supposed to with a mute and unmute goof there or something. Yeah, I think that's what happened. If Amy's there, we have another super chat we can get to, and then we can see who's got what in hand and so on. I might have called on Aimee when she's not ready. It does happen at time to time. Okay.
No, you're perfectly fine. No, I was just waiting for you. We do have two very good ones too. We have one from Mando Cool Cat for $5 American. Says, most of what Putin says is crazy garbage. If he tries to realize his nuclear threat, the only country that will be destroyed is Russia. Then we also have one from David Oliver for £5 says, Anna, Starsky, who do you think blew up the Nord Stream pipes? I don't really want to speculate, but I do think it's Russia. Thank you so much, everyone. Those are both good questions.
I have a theory on that.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's
get Anna and Starsky in to answer the super chat here. So any theories?
I think it is Russia too. And when it all started and we had the updates about the things going on in the waters of Sweden and Denmark, and the citizens worrying about these things, because it's not only the demonstration of Russia's traditional, for me, Russia and Russian diplomacy is traditionally a combination of provocations, terrorism, bribes, speculations, and things like blowing up and destroying something without demonstrating themselves. So I do think, and there are lots of examples, Ukraine had a long history of gas wars with Russia, and whenever we demonstrate our freedom, democracy, the desire to move westwards, something happened with gas prices, with pipelines. So this is just a very similar strategy that they use, but now they use against EU countries, against NATO countries, because the gas was traveling to Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And for me, definitely it's Russia, and it demonstrates so many levels of evil, starting from this military perspective, financial perspective, and finishing with ecological, because the sea is bubbling with that gas. So I personally, being a Ukrainian and experiencing all that from Russia, blame Russia for that.
Starsky?
So to me personally, it's apparent that it was a Loch Ness monster. Either either like Russians. Some of them, I mean.
A monster from some St. Petersburg.
Yeah. So it was like either a Loch Ness monster or Kremlin's monster, something like that.
Reptiles.
Either way, he smelt like vodka.
Yeah, you could tell by the accent, really.
Yeah.
I kind of have a theory too.
Yeah. So
Originally, I kind of expected that it's probably the Americans, and there's a reason. I'll rationalize it.
Okay.
Because Germans, they have a very interesting way of trying to avoid helping Ukraine in every way possible, saying very interesting things, and they've been addressing the United States, from what I know, to lift the sanctions from Russia. And they also brought the turbine from Canada, fixed it, brought it to Russians. So it's like everything to please them, right? And how do you actually deal with people like that? If they're not listening to reason, if you can't negotiate with them so that they would understand who they're dealing with, well, the only option is to force them to just, cut them off from the only source that's keeping them tied to Russia, and that would be the pipe. So that is kind of what I was thinking. But
not
then
only
again,
that, but if you please, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, go ahead there.
The Germans ostensibly are the ones who suffered the most, right? They're also the ones who speculated the least. They've agreed that it's sabotage. That's all they've said. They haven't demanded for huge investigations. Why not? Sweden, Denmark, all these countries have been far more outraged than Germany. Why? Because Germany knows who it is, and it's an ally. That's why. Putin would not do this. And Putin, I don't think, is insane. Maybe he's lost his mind, but the reality is what he was counting on was in the wintertime, Germans having to decide what they want more, to help Ukraine or to not freeze to death. The only way he had that leverage over Germany was if the pipeline was intact. That pipeline gone now, Germany has no choice but to find an alternative, meaning now there's no reason for them not to go with the sanctions. This was almost certainly not Russia. It would be shooting themselves in the foot. What they get out of a false flag operation is a tenth of what they lose outside of Putin's long-term strategy, which was to just hold on to winter and then have Germany flip. He can't do that now. He lost his biggest chip. Nope, this was not Russia.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, the only reason Russia would do this is, I don't know, it makes no sense.
A false flag. He needs a false flag now, but there wasn't enough national pride in this for Russia. He gets a little bit from this. He also doesn't have to pay the fees that they now have. But the reality is there was so little gas flowing through it. It was at what? The Nord Stream 1 was, I think, at 2 to 8% flow. Nord Stream 2 was never even activated. So there is no point in destroying them unless you want to guarantee they never get used again. Well, for Russia, this was their way out of, they were going to be able to ostensibly sell this to Germany. Now they can't. It's so unlikely, in my view, that it was Russia.
Same. But the only thing that kind of like threw me off that it could be Russia is when Putin was making a speech, he mentioned this whole thing that, the pipe was blown up and, the people that did that, like they're the ones benefiting. And I was like thinking to myself that he is usually writing these speeches in advance. And if he's writing these speeches in advance, then perhaps he was already aware that it's going to happen. And that's kind of the only red flag that I kind of like detected in this whole thing. But I think it's not them. No.
I'll also point out that the demolition appears to have required considerable technical expertise, aside from the fact that you have to do the demolition underwater, and that's always difficult. These pipes were actually encased in concrete and buried. So whoever did this, it's possible Russia, in theory, has the technical expertise, but I think we've all become reasonably aware of the deficits in Russian technical expertise in any field. I'm not convinced.
Starsky, you got your hand up.
Yeah, first of all, Russian troops have a lot of combat divers. They are not bad actually. Combat divers of Russian Army, of Russian Navy, basically, they train in Black Sea, and Black Sea is kind of deep. Because already like 1 kilometer away from the shore, you have a significant depth, like about 1 kilometer. So it's a very deep sea, and they train a lot there. Also, I think it could be a response to the statement made by Chancellor Shills, that he is not going to recognize those those referendums. Yeah, and basically he did this statement like a day or 2 days ago, prior to this this explosion. And another thing is that Russia would have to make some kind of justification to close the pipe officially, and that would again be one of the reasons why they would be hated, so to say. So they decided to do just that. In my opinion, Russia has shot itself in the leg so many times already. So yeah, like to me, there's absolutely no illusion that 100% Russia, or of course the Loch Ness monster.
Loch Ness monster does sound plausible.
Yes, yeah. If Amy's ready, we got a couple of shout outs we can slip in.
Yes, please. Here I am. We've got the first one is from Raven7, who donated Canadian $15.42. Says, in just 1 week, Russia has blown up a gas pipeline, threatened nuclear action, held a sham referendum, sent thousands of its citizens running over the border, and untrained conscripts to their deaths, killed civilians again in missile strikes. That is so true. Thank you so much, Raven. And then we have the second is a super chat from Corn Tech for $5 American. Says, U.S. Pola Cortez, flashback to Ramius and Red October. I never knew Cold War movies would be so relevant today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. It's funny, those references, though, you know, they actually come up and they hit you, you know, you remember, wait a minute, you know, that movie and stuff. But I wonder if we shouldn't turn to Anna here and get you to give everybody a little description of your channel and your experiences and whatnot, and, you know, how YouTube's been for you, you know, introduction moment, you know?
Yeah, thank you. With pleasure. And perhaps I will start with my today's experience. I'm a teacher at the university, and we had the first class with my students, and it was interrupted by an air raid alarm, and we had to stop. And that's why before the start of this war, I was 100% sure full-scale war with Russia is impossible, because it is totally illogical, and it is like shooting your own leg. But since the 24th of February, whenever something totally unbelievable and stupid comes from Putin's mouth, I believe it is possible. And well, I'm not a professional vlogger, but at the beginning of this war, I have decided there are things I want to share. And my channel is less like professional, I mean, in this military political sphere, but I try to demonstrate opinions of ordinary people. And there's so many beautiful and important and deep stories happening all around Ukraine. And they rarely get on top news, just like not the numbers of weapons or the number of Russian soldiers who return home dead, but some other things that demonstrate Ukrainians the way we are. And somehow it became very useful for me therapeutic and telling the stories of my country. And also I'm really proud of those beautiful people that join my channel and demonstrate their support and demonstrate the connections, for example, Ukraine here has with so many countries all over the world, many Ukrainians living all over the world. And back in old times, there were lots of connections, and all of that is very important and demonstrate this support. So I love my experience on YouTube, never expected to be that addicted to it, and hope that one day I will be able to share more optimistic stories, because there are lots of things to discover in Ukraine, starting from beautiful nature and finishing with our huge and interesting cultural heritage. But so far, we have to speak about our steps to the victory. And I'm really glad that there are things we can talk about.
Excellent introduction. Well done. That was great. Somebody had a great comment in the chat there. Anna gives things context.
Thank you. Well, I always warn that I'm subjective, but vlogs are supposed to be subjective. But at the same time, I never manipulate the opinion. It's possible to make mistakes, and everything is so dynamic, you know. So many things change within a day. Look at this day that we discussed. So many bad things, so many good things happening in this online regime. And I'm very grateful for people who follow the news in Ukraine, who are not getting tired of this war, because maybe this will sound a little bit arrogant, but for me, it is already a war, not of Russia against Ukraine or Ukraine protecting itself from Russia, but democratic, civilized world against darkness and evil. And this total disrespect that Russians demonstrate daily to international laws, security, I don't know, any rule that was working, demonstrate that this is, to some extent, the Third World War.
Very, very much true. Very much. We've
It sure does feel like we're in the end game.
I really hope the whole NATO application goes through fast, because then you can have a united approach, not, oh, well, because you're not in the gang, we can do some sanctions and stuff, but now the whole group can just go, hey, buddy, fuck off. You know, and it'll be a little bit different, right? We've gathered quite a few questions from the viewers, so we're going to turn it over to Dave here, and he's going to take us through some good ones for you both.
Sure thing, absolutely. Robski has thrown something in there. By blowing the pipeline, Russia gets out of gas contracts that compel them to supply gas to Europe. What do you make of that?
Mm-hmm.
Plausible.
I definitely, and I think Starsky made a very good argument. It's tough to say who did it. I think the U.S. is a higher suspect. Also, Biden promised he'd get rid of that pipeline if Putin invaded. You know, that clip's been making the rounds. I don't know for certain that it was the U.S. I don't think Putin would have done something. Well, I think Starsky made a good argument. It's possibly Russia. I think the U.S. is still top on my suspect list. And again, the fact that Germany is not making a very big deal about this, and it's their pipeline too.
Loch Ness Monster.
I actually want to pitch in on top of that, because if you remember, right, when Trump came to UN, he scolded the Germans that were like laughing in his face. He said that you guys are being very dependent on Russian gas, and that's going to be your downfall. And they kind of snickered and laughed. So I kind of actually imagine that perhaps on the stage of building the pipeline, there could be some kind of fail-safes built in as they went along. I'm not sure. So it could have been like, that fail-safe might have been there for quite a while, because I also like read speculations on that in that regard.
In my opinion, it's not that hard to destroy a gas pipe even on the bottom of the sea using all kinds of measures, starting from like underwater kamikaze drones, finishing with like kamikaze dolphins and all stuff kamikaze that Russia is so fond of. Again, if Americans were that badass, I'm not insulting Americans, but if they were that badass, they would act according to rules of hybrid warfare that is currently basically that's what Russia is doing right now. So I'm talking about like unknown missiles flying from God knows where and targeting Russian ships. I don't know, some kind of advanced drones coming from who knows where and going to nowhere and bombing like Russian bases in Crimea and stuff. Things like that. I mean, they don't play dirty. That's what I'm talking about. Russians do that all the time. They like stuff like shelling across the border, what we saw in 2014, basically, using like unrecognizable troops without patches and things like that.
Dirty play.
Yeah, dirty play. Americans don't do that. Yeah, and basically, well, of course, Putin had like different reasons to destroy those pipes. But in my opinion, it's pretty obvious who did it. And it was done exactly after that statement made by Shills.
Then on the other hand,
here in Ukraine, we have such thing. This myth was born in times of Minsk agreements, when both sides would be officially restricted from opening fire, but sometimes Russians would not give a damn about it, and they would still try to attack. For example, the Baltsovo, according to Minsk agreements, this town of the Baltsovo belonged to Ukraine, but it was held by Russians. They would not give it back, and they would not give a damn. That's why there was some kind of, we called it unrecognized third party, невідома третя сила. And this unrecognized third party was usually some kind of force that would, I don't know, destroy Russian positions, take some towns, and then just disappear. Those were not Americans. I can swear. Yeah, but like something tells me they had like local origins, not Ukrainians, of course. But yeah, but they were not Americans either. But if Americans played dirty, we would hear quite a lot from, you know, this unrecognized third party. I haven't heard about the third party since beginning of this war.
Well, we've got a couple of super chat shout outs we can get to, and then Dave's got a few more questions lined up for everybody to muse over. So Aimee.
Yes, please. I have several, so I'm going to do one at a time. I think it might be easier to go through. So I'm going to start out with this one. Thank you. We have MMC for $20 American said, would Putler perhaps destroy the pipeline to derail a coup? Perhaps derailing plans of those oligarchs who want to overthrow him and resume making money?
Ooh.
That's a very good question.
Let's get an answer from both Anna and Starsky on that one.
Yes, please.
Who wants to stumble in first?
Ladies
Take the
first.
plunge. Yeah.
Ladies first. Well, at the beginning of this war, I was so much waiting for Putin to die or for a coup against him, some oligarchs doing something, destroying him as sanctions start working, problems appearing. But I have lost this, like both desire and hope, maybe somewhere in March. I don't see any active like movements around him. Of course, he's totally insane. He does not communicate with many people, staying somewhere in a bunker and like sitting at these long tables. And well, I don't see any signs that maybe lots of people want to imagine what their life will be after Putin, who will be his successor, or maybe someone's dreaming to occupy his place in future. But I don't feel like they are doing something against him or developing any real plans that can lead to the fall of his regime or for a new person to come. But that's how I feel it.
Cool.
Well, first of all, I still believe that Putin dies because Ukrainian babushkas curse Putin every day, and this means that he's one step closer to his grave every single day. I mean, and I also like. I don't think that revolt or like some kind of coup in Russia is possible. Why? Because take a look at YouTube. Inside Russia is outside Russia already. He fled to Georgia. This sneaky guy, he fled to Georgia. That Natasha, famous blogger, she fled to Georgia. There's nobody to make coup. I mean, there's literally nobody to rely on in terms of making coup in Russia.
Yeah. Who's gonna pull the uprising? Sheep?
I think it's like it will be Ukrainians again. I mean, they went to freaking Georgia, and they expect that Ukrainians will come to Moscow and remove their Putin. Holy shit! I hope that they have their cheeseburgers in Tbilisi.
Anna, you're up.
Yeah, by the way, that is a very common comment among those good Russians on my channel who tell me, go Ukrainians, and after you finish all your things, all your stuff in Ukraine, come and liberate Russia. That is like so many millions of people, and they, wow, come and liberate us. So quite possible. So after we are finished orcs here, we can continue to Kremlin.
Orc fighting Avengers, the Ukraine way. Jack, you're up.
Yeah, so it's a very good point that Starsky made about the bloggers that are fleeing and the, kind of like the coup that might actually happen in Russia. But he brought up like, the more younger people with a more younger sort of audience, let's put it that way. I actually had a very interesting conversation with my mother about Alla Pugacheva, the famous singer that was like, even in the USSR days, she was like super popular. And even today, people know her. So her husband recently was, first they fled Russia when this whole thing started. They, I believe, both have American passports. So they fled. They stayed abroad, don't know really where, for a while. Then her husband was declared to be a foreign agent. She objected to that in Instagram. She came to Russia, and the propaganda machine of the Kremlin tried sort of to kind of like, I don't know, slander her, say that she's like, a foreign agent as well. And then suddenly it stopped. For example, Vladimir Solovyov, the propagandist, the biggest kind of propaganda guy, he was like talking shit about her and her husband. And, a few days later, he had his face smashed. And he came on stream with like a busted face. Everybody was like, oh, whoa, okay. She stayed in Russia for a while, and now she fled again, and her family members too. So the argument that I kind of had is that the older sort of, how should I put this, the legacy, the Russian legacy sort of kind of like Hollywood people, could potentially have the ability to motivate the older generation of Russians to make this whole thing stop. That was the argument coming from my mother. I said that there's no way that's going to happen. She was very sure about it, but I said, look, the Russians, the 50-something-year-olds that don't care about anything in their entire life, they allow Putin to be president for 20 years to like live like they live with no gas in their house, with like shit houses outside of their flats instead of like having they don't care. They never will care. They even if Alla Pugacheva will tell them to go on the streets and that Putin is doing the wrong thing, it's not going to work, because it's just that the people are not there.
I think, Buddy, your mother is a very smart person, very wise person, but at the same time, it makes me very, very sad, because the only person in Russia who has balls is Alla Pugacheva.
She does.
It's hard to recognize this and accept this, but it's true. And Alla Pugacheva is like, she's old. She remembers dinosaurs.
Yeah. We still hold on, guys. Hold on. Sorry, guys, but we're still doing super chats, and we got to have our answers a little shorter, or the show will end, and we'll still be doing super chats. So let's go back to Aimee for our next one here.
Yes, please. I'm going to combine two, because one's just a comment, and then the second one will be something that we can speculate on as well. So we have David Oliver for £5 sterling, who says, has anyone seen the new film Constipation? It's so new, it's not even out yet. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, David. And then we have Mando Cat, Cool Cat, for $5 American, says, Poland could be a suspect. The Norway-Poland pipeline conveniently opened shortly after Nord Stream blew up. So that's very interesting. And before you get to answer that one, I'm just going to say John Staley is a new member. Welcome to Shill Apprentice. Welcome to the family, John. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, guys, I would just wanted to say that, young men don't usually take older people serious and stuff. I really start respecting older people more and more, especially those in Russia, because I think that they are really capable of doing something. Because, again, why Pugacheva? Because 90% of all those youngsters, all those young Russians, they're sitting on the border. They're like sitting on the border, expecting their chance to flee. There's no hope. I mean, older people could do something, actually, because younger people can leave. They can go whatever the hell they want to go, but older people, they still have to live there until the end of their days. Anna, what do you think about it?
I think they're waiting for the end of their days.
Well,
if they have an option, if they have an option to start a revolution, a rebellion, or something to demonstrate their opinion, or to die, they perhaps will choose to die. For me, it is an eternal question, why Russians never oppose the dictators they produce every decade or every 50 years. It's an old Russian tradition that even if you have a couple of years of normality, looking westwards, thinking about freedom, democracy, opening your borders, then someone comes and becomes a Putin or a Stalin or some other people who are maybe less popular but still very, very bloody. So this is a kind of Russian phenomenon, nourishing and producing dictators and suffering. And one of the comments that I remembered and I liked very much, that Russia is the biggest country in the world. They live poorly. You've mentioned this shit houses and all of these things. So definitely they don't need much new territories. They've got lots of things to do inside, but they never choose this option. They like to go outside, spoiling, looting, killing, raping, and other Russian national traditions. And at the same time, many people inside, like I remember my grandma, and she remembered Soviet times. She lived like the majority of her life during Soviet Union. And when she was telling jokes about presidents or something, she would always whisper, because like you cannot talk loudly in Soviet Union. You cannot say things badly. So I do think that many Russians whisper something wrong is going on their kitchens or elsewhere. But at the same time, they never get this idea. With so many soldiers, why don't we turn back and go on Kremlin, for example, liberate ourselves from Putin, his oligarchs, and start building new Russia or many other new countries. So they are extremely passive, and choosing between to die and to protest, they will choose to die peacefully from vodka somewhere in one of these gloomy streets.
I agree with you. It's just, I was talking from my experience, and because I have some experience in protesting as well as being on the other side as a policeman later. So we had this meme about so-called knitted beret special forces. Knitted berets are knitted,
Knitted.
And yeah, exactly. And those are mostly used by Ukrainian babushkas. So Ukrainian babushkas are the most extreme fighting power on the streets, and you should remember that, because you only have to ignite them and they will destroy everything. But those are Ukrainian babushkas. They are not Russian, unfortunately.
Yeah, this was very popular, before the start of the full-scale war. This was a very popular Russian excuse, we cannot protest because they catch us, they put us in автозакс, they take us to prisons. Now, when thousands of Ukrainians die, it's no more an excuse, like you can get arrested and spend 15 days in prison. But what always surprises me when you compare any protest, for example, on the streets of Ukraine and on the streets of Russia. When something happens in Ukraine and, for example, people are captured and put in an автозак, other people from outside start shaking that car, trying to liberate their friends, and very often they succeed. And police reacts and sometimes chooses the side of the people. And in Russia, they simply observe how something very awful is happening, and once again, perhaps return home suffering for what they see. And vodka, right, as an argument to forget what you have seen on the streets.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of politically active, and I'm talking not like Russian pacifists, which is opposite of activists. I'm talking about guys who can do action. They're already in Ukraine. They are already in the ranks of that Russian Liberation Battalion, and other part of people who could do something. They're on the border or in Georgia. So it's hopeless. That speech, Putin's speech that we saw today, we will see a lot of that shit, because there will be nobody to oppose this in Russia, literally.
That I could see for sure. We got a couple more super chats, so we'll get Aimee back in again and see where we end up. Who knows?
Yes,
you never know.
You never know. Yeah, we just have some 2 quick ones. We have one from Ohms for $20 American, says, for your guests, thank you so much for your support. Then we have Simon Shorthouse for Australian $5, who says, perhaps Ukrainian geese supported by zombie soldiers and black magic destroyed the pipelines. Thank you so much, everyone. Those are brilliant.
I think it was a kamikaze duck, genetically modified by Ukrainian scientists. Definitely.
That's perfect.
Yeah, if you listen close, I think at the end somebody steps on it. Just a little. We're just getting on the hour here, so I wanted to just change gears quick and hit the button for Samantha's Charity of the Week. Yeah. Oh, wrong one. Is it this one? No. Is it that one? Oh, fuck. I got one somewhere. There it is. Yeah. And we've got Ripley's Heroes. Aid to Save Lives. This is Sam's weekly charity of the week. You'll be seeing it drop by Streamlabs in there somewhere. And there's their little blurb. Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine has killed thousands of innocent people and disrupted the lives of millions. Everyday heroes from around the world are volunteering to help, often at great personal risk. Riley's Heroes is an organization founded to support those who have risen to protect the innocent. Ripley's Heroes. I keep getting that name wrong. It's very scriggly worded here and kind of small on my screen. But yeah, Ripley's Heroes. These guys are doing great work. They're, putting their thing up and doing everything they can to help. So we're going to help support them too. You'll see the link in our chat through the Streamlabs bot. And that is Samantha's Charity of the Week. Awesome. I made it. Didn't fuck it up too much. That was all right. Yeah. So we've got our super chats caught up. So I think we have to get to Dave for a couple of more questions, and then we'll probably just, banter around ourselves a bit and stuff and see where that gets us.
Should we just give it the mic to Nick for a few moments? He's got about 5 minutes.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go ahead then, Nick.
I am going to have to leave in 5 minutes. I had one observation. I do think in the collapse of the Soviet Union was in large part due to overextending in the Afghanistan war. And they've clearly overextended in Ukraine, and they've now already lost more than in Afghanistan. So while I agree that the young people who are most likely to mobilize are out of the country and not going to do it in this case, I do think that there's a possibility for the military to mobilize. And I think that's usually what starts these things. Certainly in Russia, that's been the history. So I think Putin's days are numbered for any number of reasons. I did have a question before I go. So Russia has offered a ceasefire today. And I was curious. Zelensky gave a very good answer to the ceasefire, but I was curious as to your thoughts on the offer of a unilateral ceasefire by Russia.
Thing is, it would be probably possible if both parties, like Ukraine and Russia, were equal. But there's a problem. Ukraine is a victim and Russia is an attacker. That's why there cannot be a ceasefire. And judging from, how confident Zelensky is in this regard, I think that probably Russians have to expect some surprises. Because it's not like he's bluffing, but he's overly confident that we're going to win. I'm confident, but he's overly confident, and I think that he knows something that I don't know.
I have a thing for this, Nick. We actually have Jessica, the Shills AI computer, has done a rendition of Zelensky reacting to the ceasefire proposition.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, that was about it. And then it looked like Anna wanted to say something, and then
yeah.
I also see this confidence in Zelensky. And at the beginning of this war in February and March, when the things were very shaky and like every day we were trying to stand against the evil and everything was like very difficult, I was so much afraid of negotiations because I didn't want any negotiations with Russia as a terrorist state. I didn't want us to accept any of their demands. And now, when we demonstrate the strengths and with the support of so many countries, with the weapons, with the trainings, there is no need for any negotiations. And we remember it all started as you've mentioned already, Ukraine was attacked. With no serious reason, maybe just some biolaboratories of dogs, right, biting pipes or something, but no serious reason. So now it's not the time for us to stop. It's the time for us to finish.
Well, thank you all very much for having me on again. It's been a pleasure. Good to see all of you again. I host In Time. I hope you guys will come check it out. Starsky, would love to have you back on. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.
Take care, Nick.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, Nick.
Thank you.
All right. So, Clapper, what has Jack got for us?
Just more of the same, really. As for the negotiations, I like the way that Nixon put it. We don't negotiate with terrorists. A lot of people forget that one. Yeah. And he's not the best person, but that particular one was a good one. As regards, there's also news because because of this kind of initiation of the railway stations in Belarus to accommodate the Russian soldiers. The advisor of Zelensky, Aristovich, he mentioned something really interesting today that I noticed, that he said that nobody's going to, quote, chew on the snot, which is kind of it's a direct interpretation. In English, it kind of means that nobody's going to be playing around anymore with Belarusians. And to a degree, I kind of shared this story with my friends and family members and kind of look, the Ukrainians kind of been kind to us for a while, and it seems that their patience has run out. So, make of that what you will. And so people are kind of a little bit panicking, and that's kind of what I wanted to, add on top of all of this cake of a little cherry on top of this cake of madness.
Mm. Yeah, you can tell them that Ukraine can invade Babruisk.
Yeah, I hope so. Honestly, it's been a long time coming. I believe that there's going to be a point where Putin or Lukashenko are just going to overstep that line, and they're just going to regret everything, because the response is not going to be what is not that whole bravado that Lukashenko has is going to disappear, evaporate like water on a hot summer day on a pavement.
Let's see where we're at here. Anna's in. There we go.
We forget about one very important and new emotion that Russians have towards Ukrainians, fear. It was totally uncommon for them. It was hatred, denial, disrespect, but never fear. And now they are afraid of the Ukrainian armed forces. They are afraid of babushkas and civilians. And so perhaps something similar can be also in Belarus. And I don't think it's bad, because we are so dangerous only when we protect our land. And this is something totally normal. So I'm really happy that we can see fear in the faces of those who are mobilized. We can see fear in the faces of those who cannot cross the border and escape Russia. And sometimes it seems to me we can see fear in the face of Putin too.
I like that very much. Very much. Were we going in with a few more questions then? Oh, DKG has jumped in as well. Hey, DK, how's it going? Life good your way?
I'm here. As your resident Scotsman, I'd like to let Starsky know that the Loch Ness Monster has no Russian ties, so it wouldn't.
I'm sorry.
I had a feeling. That's funny. We do have some super chats that we should get to, because I just looked at the list and it's going to get to the point where I can't find them to bring them up on screen. So maybe if Amy's ready, we can get a couple of those in.
Yes, please. We have the first one from Sun Express for 10 American dollars. Says, it is little wonder why we have the Russia of today. The USSR spent the better part of the last century wiping out their intelligentsia. I've heard of that before. So do you want to comment on that, or should I just keep going?
Yeah, let's get a few in, because sometimes it just takes forever, and we'll get them to answer the question ones. Okay,
yeah, because that just
there's yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for confusing me more. That's appreciated.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, so I'm just going to go ahead with the second one, which is Boston Danny for $9.99. Says, a few months ago, Russian artillery outnumbered Ukraine 10-1. Is that still the case, or has enough been destroyed to improve that ratio?
I can say that we are trying to improve that ratio, probably not always in terms of numbers, but in terms of quality. But still, we don't, I cannot say that we have like an advantage in this case, because we still need more artillery. And again, guys, artillery gets destroyed time to time. Tanks are getting destroyed as well. According to the official reports as of yesterday, in Kherson region, Russians widely use their Iranian-made drones, and some of our tank columns were attacked. So they're like very, very irritating. Unfortunately, we are losing our vehicles as well due to Russian artillery strikes, missile strikes, air strikes. So we need to continue receiving all the help that we can receive. That's very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And did we have another one, or are we caught up? No, we're not caught up.
We sure did. That's right. So we have two more left. We have one from Rudy Rudisil for $10 American. Says, wanted to say, keep up the great work, Shills and Starsky. Thank you. There is no other word that best describes other than you're great. Thank you. And Anna, I love hearing you talk. Guys, 8 new Starsky merch items live now. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Rudy. That's awesome. So check that out. I'm sure we'll have the link in either the chat or in the description box. So just check that out, please. Then we have one from D. Grimm for $10 American. Says, Starsky and Anna, could you tell us how you met? Thank you so much, everyone.
How about Anna starts? Ladies first. It was already decided. Yeah.
Yeah, I can say we haven't met yet in reality. And Starsky told me that my city in Ukraine is the only city he has never visited before. So we got to change that. YouTube does magical things, so.
Yeah, that's pretty much the answer. We never met in real life.
I think somebody was hoping for more of across a crowded room, but that's just not the case here. Well, I'm sure Dave's got a few questions we should get to. So let's switch over to Dave, get some questions in, and then we still have time to just. And we still have to put Starsky on the spot. We haven't done that this week, so that's coming as well.
Oh yeah, of course. How could we forget?
Yeah,
so, Patricia, was asking, what do you think of the Russian men fleeing conscription? Should these men be allowed to leave Russia, or should they be forced to stay in Russia to sort their shit out?
Go ahead, Anna.
Well, that is such a difficult question. Like, I don't know. Well, to flee Russia or to sort their shit out, right, in Russia? Am I right?
Yeah, just to try and stay there and protest or something like that.
Like, I have no hopes for Russian men, Russian women. I'm Ukrainian and I know what I'm saying. So I don't know. Like, I feel, honestly, I will think about not about Russia, but about other countries. I feel so bad about those countries that are now overcrowded with Russians who escape. And we talk about this vloggers who at least speak some normal things, but together with these vloggers, thousands of Russian men who support war escape mobilization. When they protest, when they escape, very often they do not protest war and all the crimes that Putin and his regime commit, but they protest their own dangers, and that's why many of such people will come to other countries, and I don't want them to spoil the normality of that country. So maybe this doesn't sound very tolerant, but how can I be tolerant when my country is at war? So I don't know if they can clean their own shit or they can produce more new.
I agree on that, because it's like expecting some third party to come to Russia and change everything for them. It's wrong. Russians must do that because Ukrainians did that. Like, no Martians helped us. We just went on the streets, we died, but we removed our dictator and we became free. Russians have to do that because, like, it's crazy. On one hand, of course, if they run away, means that Putin will have less young people mobilized, right? But he will mobilize old people. He will mobilize, I don't know, disabled people and anybody. He will still have a lot of troops. It's not a problem. He will send whoever he can get to the front lines. I think that they should be isolated inside Russia completely, because there will be no other way to explain them that they suck. They should change their dictatorship, their government themselves. This is how it's done. Nobody's gonna help them. Nobody's gonna do it instead of them, and nobody cares if later some idiot will be like, third party organized a coup in Russia. It was controlled by Ukrainians, and like nobody cares. They should do that because nobody will do it instead of them.
And then when I start imagining this beautiful day when they do something against their government, something real, I cannot visualize that. And for me, and I keep repeating that everywhere, the best case is when Russia collapses and many new beautiful countries appear on its territory, with this like Moscovia region and Siberia and Yakutia, Tatarstan, and many other beautiful peoples that become free. Because we have this image of Russia, but Russia is very diverse and very different. And when we look at this mobilization, it's also very weirdly organized, right? They do not touch big cities because they are afraid of protest, and they use it as a genocide tool. For example, mobilizing lots of Crimean Tatars in Crimea that is temporarily occupied by them. And many other examples in other regions of Russia, but which are actually not Russia, but once occupied by Russia, old and beautiful nations.
Some of them will have nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and it will be easier to negotiate with them about gas prices and other things. They will be more democratic. Maybe they will be more open for exchange of ideas, practices, and so on. We have, I don't know why, so many global politicians, they have this image that Russia must always stay the same. Russia will always be governed by Putin or someone like that. No, we have to start imagining a different world with smaller Russia, and maybe that's the key to global security.
Good shout. Good shout. DK has his hand up there to jump in.
Yeah, I got a few little questorinos on that one. I mean, we've been watching the Russian vlogger Inside Russia, Konstantin. He's recently fled Russia, and I think he's gone to Kazakhstan, I think it is. It cost him thousands of dollars to get out. And he was basically thanking all the people in his YouTube community that helped him raise the funds so he could get out of Russia. There must be an awful lot of Russians who just simply cannot afford to escape, can't pay those increased those flight prices and stuff like that. But that's not my question. Now, these other countries that all these Russians have moved to, like Georgia and Kazakhstan. Now, Putin underestimated Ukraine in its response to him walking in and trying to take over the territory. What are these countries like? If Putin just invaded Georgia and Kazakhstan and annexed them again back into Russian territory, would they put up a fight, or am I missing something? Don't forget, you are talking to the uninformed here. And I am a great representation of that.
I would like to answer this question because I think there's absolutely no chance they will fight. Like, whoever can attack Russia and people will not fight. I'm freaking convinced, because like. You see, because I participated in the Revolution of Dignity, and it was not my first revolution, because before that I had quite an active, not like political life, but I participated here and there in
civil activist.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You know words. Because like I'm not used to just stay away and watch, and I cannot understand them completely. And after the Revolution of Dignity, when whole Ukraine went on the streets and started protesting, and guys, like during the hardest days of Revolution of Dignity, women would bring those tires to burn. They would bring tires to Maidan for those activists. And I'm talking like women on expensive cars, like some top managers, and things like that. So we saw whole nation united against that. Russians cannot unite. They need a freaking battalion commander, some kind of major, some kind of prick who will tell them, you are meat, go and die, and they will go. Otherwise, they're not capable of that. Like, I'm not being racist, but I completely despise them in this regard. I completely despise them.
Hard to respect it. That's for damn sure. Anna, you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, just to support with some illustration pretty quickly. back from the history of the Second World War, and even right now, there are lots of examples when, for example, Kadyrov's TikTok army is used to control Russian soldiers, not to let them surrender or move backwards, and some of them are shot. And this is a typical Russian behavior. And I remember interviewing one lady for a media project, and she was asked, why did she join the Revolution of Dignity? And she traveled from Western Ukraine to Kyiv on the very night when our students were beaten. And that was one of the very important moments in the Revolution of Dignity. And she had job, she was busy here. And her answer was, how can I stay home when somebody's children are hurt? This could have been my children, so I have to react. This is something totally wrong going on in the capital of my country, so I have to react. And she grabbed her husband, they got on a train, and they started their active participation in the Revolution of Dignity. From the Russian perspective, perhaps there was no particular reason, because sometimes we can see on those videos from the streets that young people who are more likely to protest in Russia are captured, beaten, and people just observe that and maybe even make their conclusions, whoa, we shouldn't do like that because see what happens. And these are two totally contradictory, different reactions on one and the same thing. So definitely we're not brotherly nations, and not to be a racist, but there should be something very different in the way they see the world and feel the world, and that's it.
It's like, yeah, I support that. In order to have their own revolution of dignity in Russia, they badly need one thing, which is dignity. Because, like, you know, today I published this picture of those bloggers who claimed that I left Russia. Like, there were 3 of those major Russian bloggers. I left Russia. I not like I didn't expect my viewers to support that, because they were following them. They have some kind of sympathy to those guys and stuff. I don't understand that completely. Like, how can you care about somebody if you cannot care about your country? Like,
yeah, and when in Ukraine you can die every day, and you stay because, like, you cannot imagine leaving your country, and like, anyway,
it's like, you know, it's a funny thing actually, because they ran searching for a better life, actually, and they will find it, because in Georgia they have everything that they cannot afford in Russia. They have McDonald's. In Tbilisi, Shataru there's a very nice McDonald's, by the way, one of my favorite. They have, you can buy iPhone, you can buy a modern PC. There's always sugar in the stores. Georgia is very, very modern country. Basically, Batumi is like Las Vegas on a shore. So they will find a better life there. I can only, I don't know, I can only admire that. So it's, you know, my feelings in a word.
Yeah. We've got a couple of supers in, and Streamlabs donation as well. So we'll hand it over to Aimee and get some catching up done.
Thank you very much, because they're starting to pile up. So this is good. We have the first one from level 70 for Canadian $6.99 says, sorry to say, I can't see this war ending unless Putin and the Duma are eliminated. Russia already tried to kill Zelensky twice, by the way. And that is, I've heard that too. That's very true. Then we have Martin Grossup donated Canadian $70.07, says, Starsky, do you want to let us know about your personal history? I stumbled upon a very cute pic where a boot was carried. You know what I mean? Is this story still continuing, or is it somehow sad history? Thumbs up from Switzerland.
It's one of the famous pictures that were taken a long time ago in my previous life. But yeah, probably after the war.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes. We have a super chat from Rudy Rudisil for $10 American. Says, this is an interesting one, a little history here. To prove how much the Russian government does not care about life, random fact, total number of soldiers, not civilians, that died during World War II is a little over 11 million. That's incredible. And then we had the last one from M2M, our very own Matt, who said for 10 pounds sterling, says, I think it's both Starsky's and Anna's destiny to tell the story of this war, both during and after the war. Both Ukrainians and the rest of the world should not forget this fight for sovereignty and freedom. Thank you so much, everyone. That's very powerful, Matt. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah. And big donation there. Thank you very much there, Martin. Absolutely.
I should point out, after this war's finished, we might just be doing it with smoke signals.
Yeah. Commander was waiting to get in. Welcome to the stream there, Commander. Come on, jump in there.
Thank you. Operator Starsky, I'm not going to pretend to understand what it's like to be a Ukrainian at this point in time, but I'm someone who has gone into a riot and actually been willing to die at the hands of Nazis. The reason why the Ukrainians fight so hard is that the thought of basically being someone else's BICTH is just so unthinkable that something would die inside of you if you let it happen. And do you think that, you tasted freedom before? You think that's a spark in the Ukrainians that the Russians just don't have?
Hi, buddy. Yeah, exactly. I think it's something that they lack. Because, again, Ukrainians were fighting for our independence for 1,000 years. And majority of those wars were fought against Russian invaders. Since, I don't know, that dude who attacked Kiev like exactly 1,000 years ago. Yeah, that was first fight against Russian invaders. And we love freedom. Ukraine is a country of free people who can say whatever they want to say. Who have like all kinds of, I don't know, ideas, views. That's why we lived under Soviet occupation, basically under Russian occupation for 70 years. And we know what it is. We know what genocide is. And your people went through this as well. We have a lot of Jewish people living in Ukraine, and we know what they went through. And we went through this as well during Holodomor times, during those repressions of 1937 and until the collapse of the Soviet Union. So we don't want to return to that shit. We've had enough. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good shout. Good shout. Are we caught up, Aimee? No, is there more? Did we? Yeah, we did get caught up, did we?
Almost. We have one here that I think we should just get through really quick, and then I think we can move on. So I think this one is good. This one is from Roman Stingler for €5, who says, this is a great thing, and it's just 4 words. Freedom is not free. 100%.
Absolutely. Good shout, Roman. Good shout.
Thank you
that
so
must have
much.
slipped in and I didn't see it because there was one in the list and I'm like, but I thought we were done. I was so confused there for a minute. Sorry, I keep fucking everything up today. I don't know what it is. And it's just one of those, every dog has their day and I'm licking my backside right now. So what are you going to do?
That's okay.
Yeah. Jack wanted to jump in. So Clapper, save me here, buddy. What the hell?
It's kind of an interesting thing because I went through this whole thing from seeing my country being constantly protesting from 1994, I believe it started, until today, participated in it, seen how people react, how they just don't quite understand what people are fighting for, why are they fighting for it, what's even being fought for. They just rather, like, I've seen so many people just tell me, like, what's the point? He's gonna win anyway. And why are you gonna do that? You're just gonna be a pariah later. You're just gonna be marked. Like, what's the point in all of this? And I never really could answer that question at the moment, but I've learned that I would rather die trying than not try at all. And I suffered for it, and it was not nice at all. But ultimately, looking back, I would say that it's worth it. And the thing is, I would like to share in regards to whether or not we should be pitying the people that are fleeing, seeing how my friends and family members and, friends of friends are reacting to all of this, how they're panicking right now and trying to flee and get visas and trying to understand what to do. It's not all people are just, inactive because they're assholes or because they are pro-government or whatever. It's sometimes people are just existing, and the only thing they are completely unaware of this, kind of like their level of understanding of perception is a better word. Their level of perception of what's happening around them is minimal, because that's one type of people, and they only react when there's stuff actually happening in front of them. That's one. And then there's the other part, the part that's seen things, that's seen the 90s, that's seen how people are being dealt with, the broom up your ass type of stuff that they do in prisons, in Russian prisons, for example. And that's why they have been taught through generations to be scared and silent. And it's not a very easy thing to overcome. I've seen it in my father. I've seen it in my friends' parents. It's a very multifaceted, far more multifaceted than it's not really all that two-dimensional. I just wanted to point that out.
Good shout. Good
That
shout.
is a good shout. And I do want to say that it's not as easy as it looks, is it?
No, not at all, Aimee. Not at all. Let's see here. We're coming up on 2 hours, but we still got some time. We should, if Dave's all happening and ready there, we could get a couple of more questions in from the viewers and see if that lands us. Oh, hold on. First off, gee whiz, I almost forgot. We have something funny to do. So... tell us a story from the days of young Starsky.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. Okay. Okay, so I went on a date in school. And the girls used to, like, dump me, like, all the time. Because I was a loser. And I went on a date with this girl, but because probably, like, I don't know, like, I wasn't very confident, I took my friend and that girl took her friend, and it was like a double date. So we went on a date, and you know how it is in school, like, you have like some money that you like stole from your parents, and you can buy them ice cream and like bring them to a cafe and buy some coffee and stuff like that. So it was kind of fun. And then we were just walking around in a darkness, and of course it's like the teenage double date looks like this. There's two boys and two girls. Two girls walk in front of those boys, they have conversation, they speak, they don't give a damn about those boys behind them, and the boys walk way behind them and speak like, you know, they have their own conversation. So it was a nice date, very nice date. Yeah. At some point, so we were walking down some very, very dark alley, and this girl who I kind of liked her. Hopefully she liked me as well. She fell down. She stumbled upon some stuff, and she fell down. And she broke her freaking nose. And it was bad. So she started bleeding, and she was like, oh my God. And I gave her, like, I had this, Anna, help me. Chustynka.
A chief, a handkerchief, or something like you used to.
A napkin.
A napkin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I gave her a napkin, and then she was like, holding her nose, and this whole napkin was red from blood. Yeah, and she went home, and I didn't see her ever since. But it was kind of funny.
But you have her blood sample with you.
I kind of, yeah. But it's like I was surrounded by people who used to like hurt themselves. I have a friend. He was my best buddy from like my very young years, and he had a nickname, Splash. No idea why. He was a rapper, and so in the middle school, there was like there were like dances in school, like discotheque,
Mm-hmm.
And we were dancing and like meeting girls and stuff, and having fun, drinking beer in a toilet. But this guy was the only guy who got into a fight, and he lost his tooth. Like the next day after those dances, I went to school, and I was like, "Where's Splash?" And they're like, "Ah, the Joes, man. There he is." And there comes Splash without a tooth. That's not everything. So we were like hanging out. And there was like a specific location, like a small like spot surrounded by a small building, and they were drinking beer on a roof, and I was just sitting talking to my girl and having conversation. At some point I saw this idiot flying like upside down, like flying down, but he was like this, and he looked very surprised. He was like, oh shit, and he fell down and broke his arm. And the other day we were again, it was like in school, we used to go to like computer clubs. We have like computer cafeterias where you could just rent a computer for the whole night and play like Counter-Strike and Need for Speed with your friends for like the whole night. And we used to have fun like that. So they went outside to get beer, and I was just sitting inside. I didn't want to go like with the guys because it was like cold winter, Ukraine, so after a while they returned, and of course my friend, that Splash, he had a bruise under his eye. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? So they were standing there outside, drinking beer, smoking, having conversation. They didn't touch anybody, Suddenly, there appears some drunk dude who goes past those boys. Then he returns. He comes to Splash, and he told him something like abusive and punched him, like literally, like randomly, you know. But I knew that it would be him, of course. So years passed, many years passed. We all finished school and stuff,
and survived.
Yeah, he survived. He had a tough life, actually. There were like many stories, but years passed. I lived in one place of Kyiv, then after a while I moved to another place of Kyiv, and then I was moving back. So I had quite a lot of furniture and nobody really to help me to move it from like the truck to my apartment. So I called him, and of course I had this totally selfish idea to use him to help me to move the furniture. But of course I was like, how are you? And I was like calling him. So I was like, how are you? And he was like, I'm okay. The only thing is that I broke my leg. And I just burst with laughter, and I just fell down crying and laughing at the same time, because I saw that coming. Yeah. And the funniest thing was that the dude broke his leg while crossing the road. Like nothing happened. He just fell down on his own leg with his own weight and broke him. And he nearly got ran over by a car at this very moment. Yeah,
wow. So the moral of this story is going out drinking with Starsky, do of your own free will, because you never know what could happen.
yeah, you gotta have a will.
You sound like a legend person to hang around with.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. Aimee, should we do that donation that came in?
Yes, please. If it's in the super chat room, we do have it. Thank you so much. Austin Chanel 79 donated Canadian $13.83. Says you all are great. Keep doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much, Austin. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for your support.
Oh, that was a funny one. Yeah, we can slip in another question or two here before we have to do a wrap up. We're just getting close. So, does anybody from the panel want to ask anything?
Me.
No, God, somebody else. No, go ahead, DK. Yeah.
All right, I know it's boring, and back to reality, and it's not silly, I'm afraid. Now, do you think Putin's idea of annexing parts of Ukraine is kind of a mistake, because he sees it as some kind of leverage, where the rest of the international community look at it as a joke? So when he sees if Ukraine attacks those new parts of Russia, then that's an act of aggression, and then he can retaliate in any way, shape, or form. But the international community are not going to look on that with any kind of sense of reality. Yeah, do you think it was a mistake for him to do that, to force his hand?
Yeah, sure. Well, I have come across one quote that I loved a lot. I don't remember the author, but that is definitely someone very important. But it goes very well with Putin and this whole stuff with war. It is not a crime, it is worse, it's a mistake. So all of what he planned and what he did is a mistake. I don't see like the annexation of Crimea was swallowed by some people and actually led to the start of this full-scale war now. And after so many failures and losses, nobody is really afraid of Putin. I remember how many Ukrainians were following attentively all of his speeches before the start of this full-scale war. It was so important what Putin said, not like we respected him, but we followed him. And now, in the process of this war, he's totally disrespected in Ukraine. And even like babushka, as you like to say this word, they don't listen to him anymore, and it doesn't matter what he says. So it doesn't matter what he says for us Ukrainians fighting with his army, and it doesn't matter for the rest of the wise people all over the world, because no matter how he calls it, it is not Russia. And he even failed, like he always had this dream to recreate the USSR or to recreate the Russian Empire, but they don't look like empire. There is nothing they can offer except from the poverty, anger, violence. What can they actually, okay, they will occupy these territories. They will make them a part of Russia. Let's imagine. What will they offer to these territories? Nothing. They will simply loot and what?
Aqueducts. Never mind. Never mind, Anna. It's a stupid joke.
Let it be. So anyway,
Life of Brian, look it up. Life of Brian, you will laugh your butt off.
Yeah. Oh, it's a funny movie. But anyway, keep going, Anna. Sorry.
No, that's funny. Yeah, so I think for me, everything that is happening with Putin is an agony. I'm not following his health conditions. I'm not reading news on that. But it is definitely the end of all of this campaign, and it does not look serious. It doesn't even look serious anymore. It's very important to laugh at your enemies, and when you actually reach this point, when you can laugh at them, it's already half of your victory. And I think that now it's not only Ukrainians who laugh at him, but the rest of the world too, including those who supported him a couple of months ago.
Very much.
I mean, my point about him making a mistake here is the way he's forcing his hand is going to be forced in ways that could quite potentially push us into the world war that we've all been trying to avoid in all this time. With the way that NATO hasn't stepped in and helped Ukraine, in that kind of way that we've all wanted, but they realized they couldn't do that because that would push us into a full-scale war with Russia. But now him annexing these parts of Ukraine, that is the potential of pushing us into that situation that we've been avoiding all this time.
Yeah, and in his head, I think he already started the Third World War when he started it all. Because he constantly speaks about other countries that he's ready to invade after Ukraine, like the Baltic countries, like Poland. He's threatening to the United States, to the United Kingdom. Now, if it's not Loch Ness Monster, and these are Russians, so they are already working in the waters of Sweden, Denmark. And there are lots of other examples how they interfere in the internal policy of other countries. So for him, it is already the Third World War. The thing is that other normal countries, this normalcy bias, they still believe it's possible to avoid that. And hopefully it is possible to avoid the escalation. But in his head, it is already the Third World War, I think.
I will just add a couple of words here. We are talking about, Putin pushing civilized world into this Third World War. There was such thing as Budapest Memorandum. And when civilized world took Ukrainian nuclear weapons, they probably thought that nothing bad could happen. And when they offered to protect Ukraine and guarantee its safety and security and integrity, they probably didn't expect that one day, the biggest war, the most gruesome war that they can imagine, will actually happen in Ukraine. And I think that people must understand that it's not only Ukrainian and Russian responsibility. for this war, for all the shit that is happening around the world in regards to this war. But other countries made their choice as well when this memorandum was signed, right? And another thing regarding the mistake that Putin made, actually, I think that at this point he doesn't much care about like other countries, West and stuff. He needs some kind of victory to show to his people. He needs some kind of victory to say that, come on, we did exactly what we expected. We took those territories, we liberated them, and now they're part of Russia. And he started this war because he wanted whole Ukraine. But he ended up having just a bunch of smaller towns, one major city that is basically a bigger town, let's call it this way. So there's 25 regions in Ukraine, 25 major cities. He only managed to capture one, losing dramatic amount of men. And those like Luhansk and Donetsk, they were captured basically like 8 years ago. So he needed some kind of big victory, big move to show to his people that he's worth, that he's a leader. And that's why he did that. He doesn't care much about West unless I think that he expects to have those negotiations, because again, he mentioned that like today. So he annexed the territories and he wants to have negotiations to negotiate like peace. Like, okay, guys, just let me breathe, okay? So I think that's his point, probably.
It's a really good point. You know, it's hard. It would be very hard to disagree with you on that. I'm not going to be the one to do it. Not even close. We got a couple of quick super chats in, and then we're going to go around the table, say goodnight to everybody. Anybody who's still up for hanging out, we got our pub chat show coming up right after this, and that's where we can just talk about anything we want. Grab a good glass of vintage wine or some cheap beer or whatever tickles your fancy, and we just get into it. But anyway, Aimee will take us through our last super chats, and we will say our goodnights.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will. Here we go. We have two. We have one from Level 70 for Canadian $2.79. Says, Russia is no match for NAFO or NATO. And then Mystery for £5 sterling says, if you gave Putler an enema, he could be buried in a matchbox. Thank you both for your support. It's very much appreciated. Those are brilliant. Thank you so much.
Oh, awesome. Aimee, do you want to take us around for our quick goodbyes then while you're there and at the mic and sounding oh so lovely?
Oh, sure. Thank you very much. Yes, we can start right around the room and see who's with us and get this all done. Thank you. And I'm going to start out. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to start out with DKG Custom. DKG, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like we're facing we're on the edge of some dangerous times ahead, unless something rapidly changes in Putin's leadership. I don't know. I really don't know. It's kind of scary, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see you on the other side. And like I say, next time we'll be communicating. We might not be on the internet. It will be just on smoke signals. So watch out for the smoke signals, everybody, and don't forget to subscribe.
That is very true.
We'll see you on the other side. Before I go, Starsky, thank you for coming. Anna, lovely to meet you. And Starsky, kiss me goodnight, Sarge Major. We'll see you next time. I'm going to go set up pub chat, and I'll see you all guys later. Bye.
Awesome.
Bye, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And next up, we have Dave. Fallacy Dave, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Lovely to meet Anna. Always lovely to be around Starsky as well, getting that weekly update and that sobering feeling, knowing that there are much more serious things happening elsewhere in the world, and as such being grateful for what we have. It does feel, I agree with DK, it feels like it's the beginning of something. It doesn't feel like it's the end of something. I don't know if that's wisdom or pessimism, but it's certainly feels, it's escalating. It's escalating. So yeah, maybe this is just going to become a bigger thing. And it feels like there's been a lot of black swan incidents with Brexit and Trump, and it just feels like it's all building towards something much, much bigger. And I don't know what the future holds, but I hope to be there.
Same here, and I agree with you. I've been seeing that too. Just the signs are there. It's just things seem darker than they used to. It's not good. Watching all of the current events and everything, and it's been interesting. I can tell you that right now. Next up, thank you very much, Dave, by the way. And next up, we have Commander 401. Commander, what are your thoughts on this evening?
My thoughts are this. All the territories that were under the control of Ukraine will one day be under the control of Ukraine again. And the situation where Putin set out to destroy a people, and he actually has the real potential of being destroyed by his own devices. It would be great if I've brought to mind a holiday. You know how Putin says Ukrainians are Nazis? What would be great if Zelensky would read the Megillah during Purim. It's a holiday celebrating a villain who sets out to destroy a people and is impaled on his own spike. And you guys are awesome. The armed forces of Ukraine are awesome. And Putin is done for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Commander. Next up, we have Claire S. Bear. Claire, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Oh, well, it's been a very interesting evening. I have to agree with Aimee and Dave in regards to the darkness we hear in the news lately and the that pressing feeling. So I commend, and I'm actually so grateful to both Anna and Starsky for giving us a more personal perspective from Ukraine itself, from the people itself, and from what's actually going there, that we can see it broader and more clearly, from the personal nature that it actually is, instead of just this international statement that keeps going out there. So we don't forget. We don't forget at all. So I thank you both, and it was a pleasure to meet you, Anna. And keep up the good work, both of you. I've been enjoying all the streams everywhere.
Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you. And next up, we have Clapper Jack. Jack, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Well, first of all, dziękuję bardzo za przybycie, Pani Anno. And it's been quite entertaining and bleak at the same time. But I think, we just need to keep swimming, and eventually we will get there. And hope that it's just going to be okay. That's the only thing that we need to do right now.
Yeah,
hope for the best.
Just keep swimming. That's come up already today. Funny that.
Absolutely, and enjoy every moment that you possibly can, because you never know what the future brings. Thank you very much for that. And next up, we have our guests and our family members now. Sorry, we've adopted you both. Next up, we have Anna. It was so nice to meet you. What are your thoughts on this evening, please?
Well, it is such a joy and inspiration to be with you tonight. And this is so important for us Ukrainians to feel connected with the world. And that's what we do right now. I think we are one really big family. And that's why, despite this dark times, escalation, and dangers, I still feel optimistic, because I understand that this might be the last escalation of Putin. because soon he will come to an end. It must be that way. And we have just to survive till that moment and to start rebuilding everything. And I believe it is really possible. So sometimes the premonition of war is even worse than fighting itself already. And we are fighting now, and they are losing their positions. So all of these dangers, they are also the demonstrations of Putin's agony. That's what I believe. Of course, it can be dangerous, like when you kill a dragon and then this dragon falls, it can ruin something. But at the same time, this is the death of the dragon too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We can see why you're the teacher at your university. You're amazing. Thank you so much. You're welcome. And next up, we have Starsky. Operator Starsky, what are your thoughts on this evening?
So I completely support Anna. She knows more words than I do. That's why she was able to express it better than me.
But you know more facts than I do. That's why we have to cooperate.
Yeah, well, it's probably because like I'm a military, so I probably know a secret or two. That's why I can tell you all, guys, that everything will be fine. I checked; it's true. I feel that Putin is going to meet his demise very soon. So you can trust me on that. And also, I wanted to say something very, very important, but I'm old, I forgot. So thank you, everybody who was here with us. There were quite a few guys, and it was my pleasure to see you. So let's keep in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the both of you. You're so brave and inspiring. So thank you. We needed that tonight. Thank you so much. And next up, we have Dick Dawson. Dick, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Well, I got to start by saying thank you so much for joining us, Anna. And you have an open invitation to join us any Friday you would like to. We'd love to have you around.
Thank you so much. That would be great. Thank you. Yeah, that's an honor.
Yeah, get a hold of Starsky. Any Friday you feel like joining, you can join in. And I wanted to say, during the show, we had something that's absolutely incredible that I'm going to share with you right now. The world's greatest think tank has come up with the being that is behind Putler himself, and they are about to announce it. So here we go.
Could it be?
But on a slightly more serious note, Commander Sulu himself has a message for the useless Commander Putin himself.
Your intellect is as weak as your dollar. Failure is your destiny. You disrespect yourself and your nation. You are made of stupid.
See, nobody likes your bullshit, buddy. You just gotta fucking fluff off. Like, we're done with it. And but if I keep going, I'm gonna cross some serious lines that we shouldn't cross. Show's probably already demonetized, so we'll give it over to Aimee for a proper goodbye.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone in the chat for coming and for all of your support throughout all this. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone in the panel for coming as well. You all always are wonderful to work with. It's been great. You always have great insight into different things. It's been great to get all of that. So I want to thank you for that. I just want to say, let's keep our chins up. Let's hope we've got cities surrounded. Looks like Lehman is surrounded. That's great. That's good news. So let's keep our chins up, stiff upper lip and all that. Stay brave and stay safe. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini. Heroes are the orc killers.
dear. It's over. Go home.